Hi guys, welcome to today's Cadgroup webinar. My name is Ian Cross, the Product Manager for Data Management here at Cadgroup Australia. I'm going to be taking you through an introduction to Autodesk Vault 2016, also giving a bit of a tour of what's new in 2016 for those currently using the software. I'm just going to start off with a little slideshow, just an agenda, what is Vault, some of the main functions and features. We'll then be jumping into the live demonstration of Vault. So to get started, just the agenda for today. So I'm going to start off with what is Autodesk Vault. I know some of you guys who are watching are currently using Vault. Some of you guys probably maybe have never seen Vault before. So I'm just going to give you a quick idea of what is Vault. Then we'll have a quick tour of the main features of Vault. So I'll be talking through the three levels of Vault. So you've got your basic, your workgroup, and your professional. Then into the prerequisites for Autodesk Vault. So what you need to actually get Vault up and running. Then a quick chat about what's new in 2016. Now I'm going to skim across the slides fairly quickly because I will be showing what's new in 2016 as I go along. And then obviously after I went through the slides of what's new in 2016, it will then jump into the live demonstration. So to start off with the what is Autodesk Vault. So Autodesk Vault is a PDM solution or a product data management solution. So PDM or product data management, it's a solution for managing your product related information and all your engineering processes in one single spot. So it's not something that just manages CAD files. It manages your CAD files as well as all of the information to go with your CAD files. So it's not limited to just CAD documents. You've got Word documents, Excel documents, all Office documents. In all fairness, Vault will take any file format. It will accept any file format you can take into it. And it will put them through the processes. It'll control your revision schemes. It'll do your life cycles. It'll do your change orders. It will link with your ERP systems and your SharePoints. So it's not just a storage for your CAD files. It is a solution to manage all of the information and your processes for your engineering data. Okay, so that's what the PDM solution is, or what Vault is. Now, what would I expect from a PDM solution? So there's a couple of things that I would say, okay, a PDM solution needs to do. So first of all, it should understand your CAD files. Okay, so coming from Vault, it should understand your Inventor files, your AutoCAD files, your Civil 3D files, your AutoCAD electrical files. It needs to understand the relationships between the files, down to the constraints, even what material is being used. It needs to understand what the center of gravity is, for example. It needs to understand all of the relationships between the CAD files, no matter how complex they are. It needs to be in one single position. One single sort of location where all of your CAD files are stored. So it needs to be that single repository, the single source of truth. It needs to use folders and understand your projects. It needs to have a feel about it that's not too unfamiliar for those coming straight from Windows Explorer. So it needs to have an understandable folder structure, and it needs to use projects. But it also needs to be able to read the index properties from Inventor or AutoCAD. So it will read those properties, be it the author, drawn by, check by. With your Inventor properties, you've got things like stock number, part number, title, web links, all of those information. It needs to take those in, it needs to index those, and once they're in your PDM system and they're indexed, they become searchable. Okay, so I will show you that once we come into Vault. But they are the main kind of prerequisites I would expect. It needs to understand the properties. It needs to be in one single location, not scattered across USB sticks and local computers and shared drives on servers. It needs to be in one single location. So what versions of Vault can I get, and what are the features relating to those versions of Vault? So we have three versions of Vault. You've got your Vault Basic, you've got your Vault Workgroup, and then you've got Vault Professional. Now, technically there is a fourth version with Vault Office. I'll talk about Vault Office a little bit later on. Now, Vault Basic is what you get with your design suite. So with Product Design Suite, Factory Design Suite, Building Design Suite, and the other design suites, Vault Basic comes with those products. Workgroup and Professional are separate products you have to purchase. So what comes with Vault Basic? So I'm going to skim across these fairly quickly because, again, I will be showing these in my live demonstration, so I'm not going to dwell on the descriptions too much. But you've got things like in Vault Basic, you've got security access. So you need to have a login to get into Vault. So you don't just have any old Joe Blogs poking around on the server accessing your files. You've got your check-in and check-out. So although the files sit in Vault on the server, you work with them locally once you check them out. But once you do check them out, it makes that file read-only, so nobody else can work with them, and people can see that you've got those files checked out. You've got your version control. So every time you check in and out a file from Vault, it increments the version. Now, a lot of people get confused with version control and revision control. So hopefully I'll clear that up a little bit today. You've got your copy design functionality. Copy design is probably the biggest reason why people go to Vault. So copying an entire assembly or an entire project outside of Vault, it's a bit of a struggle. But copy design inside Vault makes that just so much easier with one click of a button. I will be going through copy design when I do the live demonstration. You've got your Office integration. So even with the basic level of Vault, it will stick a Vault tab inside your Microsoft Word, your Microsoft Office, your PowerPoint, so then you can check in and out files straight from the application. You've got Vault's fast data searching. So Vault has an awesome search tool which allows you to search on any of those index properties. And unlike Windows Explorer, where you can just search by a string name, like you just got to search for the file name, just a simple string, inside Vault you can search for properties, created by, checked out by, date created, a range of date created, title, project number, worksheet number, sheet number. It could be anything, any property that's inside a file. And then you've also got your CAD integration, which I suppose comes without speaking really. Once we get to the Vault workgroup level, it starts bringing in everything that's in basic, as well as revision control and lifecycle control. So revision control, it will control your revisions, be it numeric or alphabetic, or ASME, whatever configuration you've set it up to be. You've got your lifecycle control, so controlling through from conception all the way through to released or obsolete. You can create your own life cycles. So again, you can create what happens at work in progress, what happens at released, what happens at for review, quick change, pre-release, whatever life cycles you have. Vault can manage that. And also a bit further down that list, you've got your automated tasks. So you can automatically bump up the revision as things go from work in progress to for review to released, which Vault does for you. You've got your advanced security. So when you come into workgroup, you can start adding in folder security, lifecycle security. So you can control who sees what when and who has control of what file at what state. Vault Office. So coming into the Vault workgroup, you've got Vault Office. So the Vault Office client allows non-CAD users to interact with Vault. So they are limited in a way that they can't interact. They can't modify or change CAD files, but they can check in and out Word documents, Office documents, Excel documents, Outlook documents. They can participate in ECOs and workflows and change orders, all that sort of stuff. They're just limited really to CAD files. And you've also got the connection into the cloud and PLM 360 into Workgroup. Once you get into the professional, the top of the range Vault, you've got everything that's in Basic and Workgroup. You've then got integrations into the likes of SharePoint or SAP or any of you can start linking into any of your ERP systems. You've got your bill of materials management with the item control. You've got ECO workflows. ECO is engineering change order when it comes to Vault. So once a file has been released and then needs to go through a change process, it's not just okay, flick that back to work in progress and let's do it. It's got to go through an approval process. So the ECO workflow tracks that. Only certain users, again, at certain points can access the files, who gets to approve, who gets to review, who gets to do the change. Then you've got multi-site scalability. So once you get to Vault Professional, you can start having multiple sites and then start linking them together with SQL replication. So although there might be sites all around the world, States, UK, Europe, Australia, Asia, wherever it may be, you can have them all talking together real time. You've got Active Directory authentication once you get to work to Vault Professional, and you've also got the web access through the Vault Thin client, which again I will be showing you once we get going. So that's just a brief overview of what the main features are with what level. Now I will be showing Vault Professional, so I will be showing you the entire range of the software. So next on my list of things to talk about was the prerequisites for Vault. Now, we do recommend that your Vault server is on a dedicated server, so you don't just stick it on any old guy's work machine, or especially not the domain controller. It should really be a standalone server just dedicated for Vault. Now, if you're running on Vault Basic, you can use Windows 7, Windows 8, or Windows 8.1 as your Vault Basic server. Once you get to Workgroup or Professional, it has to go on a Windows Server operating system. Now, with 2016 Vault, that's only Server 2012 or 2012 R2, okay, as you can see on the screen there. Now, with regards to the database of Vault, now if you're just a single site, SQL 2012 Express, 2014 Express, 2012 has to be SP2. If you're going to go for the full replication multi-site Vault, then you need to go to the full version 2012 or 2014 SQL Server. Now, the SQL Express is limited to performance and database size, so it does only have a 10 gigabytes limit for the database, so there is some limitations with SQL Express. But once you hit that once you hit that 10 gig limit, you can then upgrade to full version SQL. And again, that was 2012 or 2014 SQL. Now, I did say I was going to have a quick talk about what's new in 2016. So I'm going to like I said, I'm going to quickly skip across the slides. I will talk about what's on the slides, but I'm going to spend more time actually showing the features than talking about the features in the slides. So in 2016, there is an all-new copy design. It has a new interface. You can customize the interface. You can do multiple copies in one go. You've got support for non-CAD files and further support for AutoCAD electrical files. There's faster performance. And the biggest request that Autodesk have had for copy design was to add the custom numbering scheme into copy design. So when you do your copy, you can then apply your own custom numbering scheme into the copy design. So there's some of the new features in the copy design. As you can see from the picture there, it does look a little bit different from the 2015 for those that have been using 2015. So it is all new, it's faster, it's got more customization, it is a lot better. Next thing along was the AnyCAD support. So in Inventor 2016, there is the support for AnyCAD. So in a nutshell, what that is you can import native SolidWorks or Creo or PTC data straight into Inventor. Instead of having to convert it to a SAT file or a STEP file or an IGES file or whatever it may be, you can import the native say SolidWorks file directly into Vault, and that can be, if the SolidWorks file updates, your Inventor file will update. So Vault will accept the Inventor AnyCAD. We've got the Vault Office Thick client. Now the Thick client was there previously, but in 2016 it has been modified. It's been enhanced a lot so that non-CAD users can now manage their documentation, view and mark up designs. They can participate in the ECOs, they can approve the designs. The only thing they are really restricted to is modifying CAD files. They cannot check in and out CAD files with the Vault Office Thick client. So just to summarize, I mean, they're the main kind of features. To summarize all of that up, we have our CAD integration, so the AnyCAD and also DWG underlay. So when you use DWG underlays within Inventor files, Vault now supports that. We have our brand new interface and improved productivity for copy design. The unified lifecycle definition, so file lifecycles and item lifecycles within Vault are now the same. Historically, 2015 or 2014 and previously, there wasn't much customization to be had in item lifecycles. Now you can do as much customization to item lifecycles as you can to file lifecycles to give the same feel across items and files. There are some bill of material enhancements when it comes to item management in Vault, and the Vault Office has been modified in 2016. So they are the main modifications to 2016. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to jump into 2016 Vault and give you guys a quick tour. So if I jump over to my Vault, now Vault is a server application, so your actual Vault sits on a server in your office, and then each user has a client that they use to log into Vault. So I have a client on my desktop. Once you double click your client on your desktop, you will be asked to log in. Okay, now as I said before, you need a login to get into Vault, so you can't have any unauthorized person just logging into Vault. Once you get to Vault Professional, you can then start linking it with your Windows account. I am just going to stick with my standard Vault account, and I am going to log in. Okay, so it logs me into Vault. There's also a client inside your Inventor, which I'll come to in just a sec. I'm now going to give you a tour of the interface. So this is the welcome page, which can be customized. It's simply a HTML document on the server, which can be customized to add your own logos and your own information in there. Down the left-hand side here, we have our navigation bar. So the navigation bar is designed to have a Windows Explorer feel. So, you know, it's not completely foreign to those who are brand new to Vault. It also allows you to, whatever you've got currently in Windows Explorer, allows you to customize Vault to have the same feel. So in here, I've got my top level project. And then in here, I've got all my folders. I've got some AutoCAD files. I've got some data files, some engineering files, and some library files. And then further inside here, I eventually browse down to where my CAD documents are. Now, this one's called the navigation pane. This is your main pane. Over here, we have our properties pane, and down here, we have our preview pane. So once I click onto a document, I get some information further down the bottom. Now, as I've selected a file, for instance here, the AB1003, it's at work in progress, it's at revision C, it's got a particular category assigned to it. Here's all my properties. Now, there are some standard Vault properties, but there are also some properties which are brought straight through from Inventor. Same thing with AutoCAD, so any attributes you have in your title block, they can be mapped into Vault, and if they're modified in Vault, they will show in AutoCAD, and if they're modified in AutoCAD or Inventor, let's say, they will be shown, the new changes will be also shown inside Vault. So I've got all my properties down the side. If the properties are in Vault, they can be searched by. Okay, so whatever properties you've got in your title block or your iProperties inside Inventor, they can be searched inside Vault. Now down the bottom here where I've got my preview pane, I can see the history of this file. So every single time this file has been checked in and out, I can see exactly what happened, who checked it in and out, when they checked it in, and any comments they made. Now you can see what I talked about versions and revisions. So we have 12 versions and only 4 revisions. Okay, a version is just a change in the metadata of the file. It's checked in, it's checked out. Nothing. It could have just been a property change. It could have just been somebody measuring something. So it's the check in and check out times change. That's a metadata change. A revision change is something that's may just happened in the life cycle of that file. It went from work in progress to review. It got rejected. It went back to work in progress. It then went to approved. Major changes, so it goes from revision A to revision B to revision C, so on and so forth. So as the file came up, I eventually got to revision C, I can see everything that happened. And at any point in time, I can select on a previous version, going all the way back to the beginning, and then I can open up that file and make that file the most recent current file. So at any point in time, I can go back and get an older version. You might have worked on a file for a couple of days and thought, okay, I need to go back to 3 days ago when I made this change because that change wasn't correct. Instead of having to go and bother the IT guys to bring up a backup of the server to so many days ago and losing all of your work, you can just right click on that version and make it current. But I can also see, does that file have any children? This file doesn't have any children. I can see, is this file being used by any other, so does it have any parents? So I can see all of the parents that are using this file. Okay. So I can see the complete hierarchy of this file. Is it attached to any particular change orders? We'll go through the change orders later on, but I've also got the previews of this file. So I'll just quickly publish a visualization file here. So I don't need to check the file out to have a look at it. I can view it straight from within Vault. Okay, I don't need to check the file out to have a look at it. I can have a look at it straight from within Vault. Okay. Now, if I just quickly jump over to my Inventor, you can see that from inside my Inventor file, inside my Inventor, I do have a Vault tab where I can check in and out parts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up that particular file. I'm going to modify it, check it back into Vault, and show you that it tracks everything that I've done. So from within Inventor, I go to my Open tab. Okay, I'm in the Airbox folder where I want to be. I'm going to open up this guy. It says, do you want to check him out? Yes, I do. Check out for change. I always recommend that you stick a comment in there. Now I am just going to simply change the material to, let's say, steel. I'm going to save this file and check it back in. Now I am just making a small change, so that it doesn't really, I don't want to make too much of a change. So check it back in, checked out for change material to steel. Okay, so when I'm checking it in, it's creating a DWF file, so it's creating a visualization file. I also get the chance to delete the file from my local PC, because as I check files out, if I jump over to my Vault and just do a quick refresh here, it says that I've got the file checked out. Anybody else who logs into this Vault won't be able to access that file. So if I just quickly log out and log in as a different user, if I log in as my Charlie Checker, my checker, so log in, if I browse to that same folder, I can see that that file has a big line through to say that iCross is working on it, so I can't get a hold of that file. I can't check that file out. Okay, so whenever you check a file out, it puts a big line through to say that person is working on it. Okay, all the way back up to the top, and it says here checked out for change, so the latest version is checked out to me. Now that person can get a read-only copy. They can't check it out though to make any changes. They can only get a read-only copy. So let's just quickly log back out as this guy and log in as myself again. So as you can see there, the file was checked out to me, so no one else can work on it. So when I check the file out from Vault, it puts the big line through it, makes it read-only, and brings a file local to my PC. That's one of the big things with Vault. You don't work with files directly in Vault. It gets a local copy of the file to your local workspace. So when you work with it locally, giving it the best performance that you can. You don't want to be sending files over the server all the time. So it always does the changes locally, and then allows you to add it back into Vault once you're finished. So I just jump back to Inventor and say, okay, check this file in. It's now back into Vault. Just do a quick refresh. Okay, so it's checked back into Vault, and you'll see there, checked out for change, a bit wider, change material to steel. Okay, the comments are also in here. Comment checked out, change material to steel. Okay, so every time you check in and out a file, that modification is tracked. You can see who did it, when they did it, and what they did. And if anything happens, someone makes a mistake, you can always go back to an older version. Okay, now that's just a simple check in and out. Files become locked. Different users can see certain things. Now let's say, for instance, I want to find a file. Now this could be a file created 3 years ago by Bob. I don't know. It could be anybody. Now I did a webinar maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago about improving your productivity with Vault. And the biggest problem with people who are using Windows Explorer, the biggest problem that we found with some research for some guys in the States, the biggest problem was finding files. Okay, a lot of people were wasting time just finding a file in Windows Explorer because all you can search by is the file name. But with Vault's advanced search tool, when I go to do my find, I can search for any property. So I can search in any particular folder, like you would expect in Windows Explorer. You can search in any folder, but I can also search for any property. So we'll just come up with, say, I want to search for a part made of plastic. So I'm going to search for a part with a material that contains ABS. Okay, it's going to be ABS plastic, and do a find. Okay, it comes back with quite a lot of parts. Okay, I want to narrow that down. I want to search for a material containing ABS, but that was also created by me. So I'm going to say created by I cross. So you can do multiple searches and searches. So you say it has to be contains this property, created by this person. I can go down to date it was checked in by, date it was created, descriptions, drawing numbers. If you know that the file was created 3 years ago by Bob, and it had XYZ in the name, you can do that. You can search for all of those properties put together. Go to my find, and then it narrows it down. And I know that it was a bodywork part, and then I can directly go to that folder and work with that file. Okay, so again, saving me a lot of time. I'm not just searching for a random string name in a folder full of 1,000 inventor files. I can search by any particular property. If the property is indexed and mapped into Vault, you can search by it, okay, which saves a lot of time. Now, I've created my files. I've got a little assembly here. Now, I'm just going to change this guy back from work in progress from review back to work in progress. You can see that it automatically updated the revision number there. I'll go through that in just a sec. But I want to create a copy of my airbox. Now, one of the problems with Windows Explorer when you do this is you don't know what's related to what. If I was to select this file in Windows Explorer, I don't know what children are attached to it. Okay, when I copy in Windows Explorer, it still looks for the original part. I'm going to have to go into Inventor and start renaming links and repointing things around. If I wanted to rename those files in Inventor, I'd have to manually one by one go through. In Vault, all I need to do is select the assembly, go to Copy Design. Here is my new Copy Design dialog box. It automatically picks the children that are associated. Now, it's not just picking the children because they're in the same folder. It will go down through all the folder structures and pick up everything. Now, from within here, I now need to tell it what I want to copy, what I want to reuse, what I want to exclude, because you may want to only copy certain files and reuse certain files. So when I select my files and say copy, I can either copy, replace, exclude, or reuse. So I'm going to copy these to a particular folder. So I'm going to create a new folder and call it Airbox C. Okay, so I'm going to copy it to that particular location. You can see I've now got copied in here. But the great thing about this new copy design in 2016 is I can copy multiple assemblies. So I might want to copy this and something else. So I can go into Add Objects and then browse and select, I'm in the brakes folder here. Select my 2 brakes, bring them through. And again, I'm going to copy those 2, same folder, click OK. Now, at the moment, it's not giving them, it's just going to prefix them with sort of a 1 or a 2 or whatever. So it's going to have 1003-1, 1003-2. Now I want to give them a particular naming scheme. So down here is all my naming schemes that I can have. But at the minute, all the files are sitting in none. I want to assign them to the monopart numbering scheme. So all I do is I select my files and I drag and drop. Okay, so they're now going to go M-M and then have a particular numbering scheme. But I want these to follow the airbox numbering scheme. So I'm just going to change that to airbox. Okay, so you can see that the new files are going to go M-AB- and then it will just pick the next available numbering scheme. Okay, it will look through the entire vault, see all files named M-AB, and it will pick the next available number. Outside of Windows, outside of Vault, you're going to struggle to do that. And I drag these guys in as well. And these guys, I'm going to follow the brakes. So they're going to go M-BR and then have a particular numbering scheme. Now, as you get larger and larger assemblies here, it becomes hard to see exactly which ones you copy, which ones are you reusing, which ones you're excluding, especially if you've got assemblies of 100 to 1,000 parts. So down the bottom here, I can see what actions I'm performing. So in my copy, you can see everything that you're copying, everything that I'm reusing, replacing, excluding, removing, or editing. Now, I'm not doing any of these at the moment. That's why there's no files. But through here, you can simply see exactly what you're performing with that action. So at the minute, I am just copying everything. They're following the right numbering scheme. But I can also do things like just copy the top nodes. Okay, or include all attachments or include the library files. So there's a lot of customization you can do from within here. Okay, I can also change what numbering schemes I'm going to have, change what panels I want on the top. There's a lot of customization you can do with inside here. And to finish off what I need to do, I just click copy. Okay, so it's now copying those folders, it's breaking the links back to the original. There's a big tick to say yes, I'm done. So now in my airbox C box, I have my ABs and my BRs. Okay, and you can see that in the versions I've copied the files and the properties have been updated. Okay, so you can see that as I've done that, they've copied through, they've tucked in on my scheme, everything's great. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new inventor file and stick my inventor file into Vault, and you'll see what happens when I do that. Okay, so if I jump straight to my inventor, let's close this part file down, I have a wheel here. Okay, so I've done my wheel. If you watched my inventor iLogic webinar the other day, you would have seen this wheel. It would be familiar to you. But I've done my wheel, I've modeled it up, I'm now ready to check that wheel in. Okay, so yes, I'm going to save it, I'm going to check the wheel in, and I'm just going to say initial check-in. It's creating a DWF, click OK, it's checked the file into Vault, great. So I've now got, so you can see there's no car wheel on there, my car wheel there. Okay, so here's my car wheel. It automatically went to the Inventor IPT category. It went to revision A, work in progress. Now it automatically did that. There was no me having to go, okay, I've got to remember to put it on revision A, I've got to remember to stick it at work in progress. It automatically does that. How does it do that? So inside my Vault settings, I have behaviors. So first thing that it does when it comes into Vault, it gets assigned to a category. So in my categories, I have Inventor IPT categories, IAM, I've got engineering, AutoCAD, Office, reports categories. So when it comes in, it reads a rule. So my Inventor IPT, if the file extension contains IPT, it automatically gets assigned to that category. Okay. If it's an IAM, it goes on that category. If it's a PDF, it goes on the Office category. Now you can set as many different rules as you want. You know, if it's an AutoCAD DWG, it goes on this one. If it's an Inventor DWG, it goes on that one, so on and so forth. Now, once it gets assigned to the category, okay, the category then tells it that you need to use the basic release lifecycle and also the standard alphabetical revision scheme. Okay, so that's how it automatically went to the work in progress and the revision, because this category said use that revision scheme and use that lifecycle. Now, the revision schemes are pretty straightforward. There's alphabetic, numeric, and ASME. You can create your own. That's not a problem. But you can change the delimiter, the primary number, the secondary number, and the tertiary number. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Now the life cycles are a bit more customizable. So I've told them to use the basic release life cycle. So there is a work in progress, review, released, obsolete, which is fairly standard. But inside this life cycle, I can tell it what to do at what state. This is the automation. Okay, so when it's at work in progress, is there any security? No. Everyone has access to it at the work in progress stage. When it's in the review stage, okay, so I have access to it, but engineering teams and the manufacturing teams don't. So only I'm allowed to review it. When it's released, everyone has read access, but nobody can modify or delete it. Okay, and when it's obsolete, all people can only read it. Okay, so you can customize as much as you want, as many different names and groups as you want for security. But there's also the transitions. So when it goes from work in progress to for review, you see that before my revision scheme went from D to D.1. Okay, because inside here, I set an action when it went from work in progress to review that it bumps the secondary revision. Okay, but you can also set things like criteria. So I might want, for instance, it cannot go from work in progress to review unless someone gives it a comment or someone gives it a description. It has to have a description, it has to have a comment, it has to be checked by, it has to have a title, it has to have a part number. Okay, so you can control as much and as little as you want of how things go from one state to the other. And also you've got the security, who has permission to change it from work in progress to review. Now, generally everyone can send it to review, that's fine. When it comes to the review stage, okay, I've got bumped the secondary revision. So when it goes from review to released, let's say, security, so there's no security there, I'm bumping the primary revision. So from going D.1, it'll jump to E. But also things like you don't want to release the parent unless the children are released, because you don't want an assembly going out for release for manufacture if the children are still work in progress. So you can't release the parent until the children are released, which again is a fairly standard thing to have. But all the way down to even you can have things like the associated files. So any PDF documents that you've added, or any Word documents or Excel documents, they have to be authorized and approved before they can go to released. So as you can see, Vault is as customizable as you want it to be. You can set as much restrictions or as little restrictions as you want. So as my file came in, it got scanned to say it is an IPT file. It went on the inventor part file category, which assigned it to revision A and work in progress, which is exactly what I want to happen. There was no manual process, it just automatically happened. Now, this file will go in and out, in and out. It'll get a lot of work in progress done to eventually it goes from work in progress to for review. That's when in here, the authorized person would say change state, and I'm going to change it to for review. Made all my changes, please review. Whatever comment that you want to put in, click OK. It goes to review. It automatically changes the revision. If that is linked to your inventor title block, your inventor title block will update. Your inventor I properties will update. Your AutoCAD title block will update. You don't have to go back and then modify or remind somebody to change it. Okay, so it's went to review. As I showed you before, I restricted some people from seeing the file at this point in time. So if I log back in as my Charlie checker, he should not have access to this file. So if he comes into here and goes to data, car wheel in here, can't see anything. He's not allowed to see that file. I don't want my engineers seeing the file while it's in review, because I don't want them just quickly stealing it back on, oh, I'm going to quickly make a change. They make a change when I pull it up and say, this is what's wrong. It's documented, because if they just take it straight back out, it's not documented. Okay, everything needs to be documented and traced. It helps towards your ISO 9001 compliance if everything is tracked and you've got your accountability there. So if I just quickly log back out and log back in as me. So back in as me, jump into my car wheel, I review it, it goes back to work in progress, back and forward, eventually it'll go to released. Okay, it'll go to released, you click OK, it's now released, and you can see that it's automatically changed it to be. Now I just got to get a local copy of this, and you can see that the file is now locked. Okay, even if I go to do a checkout, okay, nothing happens. If I do a get, okay, I can't tick that file. I cannot check the file out. It is released. Okay, and even as the administrator, I cannot delete this file. It is released. It is out of production. Okay, and as you can see through the history of this file, everything that's happened has been documented all the way through. I can see where it's being used, who's doing what, and everything's being done. Okay, so that's generally what would happen to the lifecycle files. And now that would be the same whether it's a part file, assembly file, Word document, PDF document. It would be the same. Certain people get to see it at certain times, some people don't. And then eventually it works its way all the way through to released, and it's out in into production. Now only certain people again have the ability to change the state back to work in progress or back to review. Generally you would restrict it from going released straight back to work in progress. It's got to go through an approval process. Okay, so in my tools, in my Vault settings, behaviors, life cycles, just quickly edit. Now from my released back to work in progress, that should be, okay, it's not set. That should be set to nobody's allowed to do that, or only I'm allowed to do that. Okay, because you just don't want any Joe blogs going, oh, let's just quickly change that, let's just quickly check it out. You don't want anybody doing that. In Vault Professional, this is where you would send it through a change order. Okay, so the file is out in the real world, it's getting made, and then suddenly something comes back and says a fillet needs to be changed, or a hole needs to be modified, something's not fitting, it's breaking, it needs to be changed. Generally, a change order would be raised. Okay, so someone's actually got to look at it and say, okay, yeah, I agree, let's do a recall and change. So from here, I can range a change order, add to a new change order. You can also do it in your change order list. I have 2 changes already existing in here, one for a simulation report and one for just, it was just one I made up at the time being. So back to my car wheel. I'm going to arrange my change order, new change order. Now, change order number, again, you can program in whatever numbering scheme that you want. Default is just ECO dash a number. So it gets to a change order numbering scheme. You give it a title. Now, I always recommend you be as descriptive as possible, but I'm just going to say this is Vault Demo ECO. Please change finish on wheel. Okay, please change the finish on the wheel. Okay, the files that are attached is currently at released. Any comments that I want to add, as the file goes through its ECO process, you'll see all of the comments will add up here. Any additional files you want to attach, the routing that the file is going to go through. I have a Vault demonstration, or I can pick my own routing thing. I'll go through that in just a sec. And then what status it's at. Okay, so the file starts in a create status. Once I've put in all my information, I submit it. Okay, it then goes to the change administrator. They decide, no, we're not going to make a change, or yes, they submit it to have some work done. Okay, once it goes from open to submit, it goes to the responsible engineer. They are the guys that do the work. Then they submit it for review. The reviewers review it. Now, there's 2 people at this stage. There's a reviewer and there's an approver. Reviewers are there just to simply review and put in their 2 cents worth of comments, and the approvers are the guy who actually approve it to be done, and it's ready to go back into production again. And at the review stage, if you've got more than one approver, you can set it to be unanimous approval, so both approvers have to say yes, or you can just set it to say one approver and that guy says yes. Okay, so depending on who you set as your routing, depends who it goes to. So for instance, I've just got a Vault demonstration one here where I am the guy that does everything, just for more time purposes here, as I show you as it goes through. But you could have different change order routes for different disciplines. So if it's an electrical ECO, it goes through particular people. Okay, these are the approvers, these are the change guys, because you don't want an electrical engineer trying to approve a P&ID, or you don't want a mechanical guy trying to say yes or no on, is that the right circuit breaker, or is that the right fuse to be using in an electrical drawing. It has to go through the right set of people. So you can pick the right change for the right people. So I'm just going to go through the Vault demonstration one for now. At each stage, it does send emails as well. So when it hits the open stage, whoever is designated as the change administrator gets an email. When it goes to work, whoever is the responsible engineer will get an email. You only get emails if you are involved at that stage. So the approvers won't get emails at this point. They won't get an email until the review stage when they are required to approve it. Okay, so at the minute it's still in the create stage. Okay, I'm going to save that. Okay, it then goes to the open stage. Okay, so I'm just going to refresh that. Okay, sorry, I'm going to click submit. I submit that. Submit to open. I put in any comments that I want. Problem with paint, need to change, see attached docs, and then you can attach any doc. I don't have my emails configured right now, but you can attach any documents, and then you add that comment to the email, and that email goes off to anybody who's required. So when you add the users in, you add their email addresses in as well. I'll show you that once we come out of the ECOs. And then that person gets the email. So it then goes to the open stage. Okay, so that's the one there. Okay, so then it's required for the change engineer. Sorry, the change administrator, which is me. Okay, so then I would get an email and it would tell me what to do. So I would then come in, I would say view and respond. If I'm happy by reading it, checking the attachments and the documents, if everything's all good, I would then pass it through. Now, I'm trying to be a bit wary of time here, so I am going to flick this through pretty quickly and then get onto the web client. So it would come into me, I would then change it. Okay, it now needs to go back to work in progress for the guy to make the change. Okay, I would add all my comments in, I would then submit it to work. yes, please do work. Okay, it would then go to work. Okay, so status, it's at work. So then the the responsible engineer would then get an email for them to do something. They would then submit it, do the work, and then once they're done with it, they would then say, okay, set it to be review, set the file to be review, and then submit for review. Okay, and then whoever is the reviewer would then get the email to do work with it. Okay, it's fairly straightforward, but the great thing about this is every single stage is tracked, every comment is tracked, and once the ECO is finished, it's saved with that file. It can never be deleted. So even if that file gets finished and punched out into the system and comes back a year later saying, no, paint's still off, you can always go back and say, okay, who authorized that? We've got the accountability and the traceability to see exactly what happened, when it happened, and who authorized that. Okay, again, complying with the ISO 9001. So the person reviews it, that's all great. It's in the review stage. I then come in and say, okay, yes, I'm happy with that. I would open it up, I would review it, I would have a look at the markups. Great, I'm happy with it. I would then approve it. Okay, yes, I'm happy with that. Yes, happy. Click OK. It goes to approved. I can then close the change order. Okay. And then the file is closed, the work has been done, and then it's back into system, back into production. Okay. If I jump back to the file, oops, I forgot to release it there at the very end. Release it back into production. It gets back to released. It's now at version D. In the change orders, I can see that there is a change order assigned to it. Okay. And I can see everything that's happened from open, work, review, approve, close, all the way to the end of everything that happened. Okay. So that is your change order. It does have the automated email processes, which I'm sorry I don't have it set up right at this moment in time, but at every stage, so I can see when in your global settings for your users, so under sort of Charlie Checker, you would put in Charlie Checker's email address. So if he is the responsible engineer, when it gets to his stage, Vault will send him an email to say, please do this work. Or if he's an approver, please approve this. He can then go in, click the link, it will take him to Vault, and he can then do the changes he needs to do. Okay. You can have as many users as you want. You can also set up groups. You've got all the groups in there. So administrators, engineers, manufacturing, purchasing, whoever needs to be involved in what. You've then got your change orders, so you can define as many different change order routes as you want. And again, you can have as many as you want for manufacturing, for mechanical, for electrical, for P&ID, for plant, for architectural, whatever you're using your Vault system for. Okay, now finally moving on from the ECO is the web client. So the web client is designed for people who you don't want to give access to anything in Vault apart from read access. Just people you want to view files. So with Vault Professional, if I just bring over my Windows Explorer, so you punch in the server name, you punch in Autodesk TC, and it takes you to the thin client or the Autodesk web client. So if I log in as, say, myself, so even though I'm an administrator, I still only get to see the released files. Now you can configure this as much as you want. The access you have here is the same access you would have in Vault. Okay, so if you've got access to a particular folder, you'll only have access to that folder in here. If you've only got read access or write access, you've only got that particular access in here. And if I go in here to my Project Explorer, into my data folder, and let's see, look at the bodywork file, I can only see the release data. Okay, so you're never going to have somebody looking at Vault, looking at unreleased, not ready for production data. And in here, they can see all of the properties, all of the notes. You can configure it so that they can see the previous releases if they want, or they can just say the latest release. So in here, I can see all the properties. I can see the visualization file. They can get a read-only copy of the file if they want. If you want to configure it so that they can only see PDFs, or they only see DWFs, or whatever it may be, it is configurable enough to do that. But the point of the web client is if you've got admin staff that only need to see released PDFs, if you've got contract draftsmen that only need this, or contract workshop, or just the workshop guys in general, they need access to the released files. Okay, you don't want to give them an access to your standard vault. They're going to be stuffing around editing files when they're not supposed to be editing it. If you give them access to here, they will only see the released files when they're ready to be released. Okay, and that's one of the great benefits of the thin client. Now, I hope I haven't confused you guys too much. It was a bit rushed there. So in a nutshell, what I went through was I took you into Vault, I showed you the interface, took you through the Inventor interface with the Vault Client Inventor, checking in out a file, showing you that it becomes locked. We had the searching for the materials, searching for properties. We have our copy design, the rules, the categories, and the life cycles as an Inventor file, or any particular file in general that comes in, gets assigned to its own category, its own life cycle, its own rule. So that's, again, saving you that process of doing that. As it goes through the life cycle from work in progress to review to released, certain people have an access at certain times, certain people can see it, some people can't see it, and then once it does get released and it needs a change, it's got to go through the change order. So certain people can only request change, certain people can only review things, certain people can only approve things, certain people can make the change. And again, that's all tracked, so you've got the accountability and the traceability of everything happens with that file. And then finally, we've got the thin client. So if I just quickly jump back into my here, so if I just quickly go back to my main features. So I went through the web access, the ACO workflow, the automated the tasks, the Vault Office. You can't have Vault Office and Vault Professional installed on the same PC, but effectively it would be the same interface. They will just be restricted to CAD files. We went through the lifecycle, revision control, data searching, CAD, security access, copy design, the version control. We went through all of that. Okay, so kind of moving on to near the end after I've said let's look at Vault. At this moment in time, Cadgroup have an offer on. So if Vault is something that interests you, Cadgroup have a current promotion of 25% off new perpetual seats of Vault Professional, Office and Workgroup when purchased with maintenance subscription. It is only valid until the 27th of October. So please jump onto the Cadgroup website. There's a banner that scrolls around the top. Eventually it'll get to the Vault promotion page. So if you click on that, fill in the form and one of our sales guys will be getting in touch with you, or alternatively just give us a call and one of us will get in touch with you. I hope you've enjoyed the Vault presentation. I hope I haven't taken up too much of your time. Thank you for everyone for coming along and seeing the Vault webinar. If you do have any further questions, like I said, please do get in touch with us, either via the website or give us a call. Thank you guys for coming along, and I hope to speak to you guys soon. Thank you.